Good afternoon. Once again, here in Taiwan, we've been lucky. We've dodged yet another super typhoon that was headed directly towards us. But at the last minute, now it's in the process of veering off to the north, destined for Japan once again. My friends in Japan, be safe. And in the sense of fairness, there's a smaller one, a few days behind this one, that seems at this point that it will hit Taiwan. It's only a matter of time. We've been lucky or blessed to have dodged the bullet on the last several typhoons. In fact, we are yet to really feel the effects of a typhoon this year, which is not necessarily a good thing, because we do. Typhoon is normal at this time of the year. So anyway, Japan, buckle down and be safe. Must have a fairly high level of expertise in Japan because they've been hit with an unusually tough year, both earthquakes and typhoons. Being on the same ring of fire, the Pacific Ring of Fire that Japan is on, we too have had minor earthquakes, but we keep our fingers crossed that a big one won't hit again. Unusually beautiful weather we've been enjoying, typhoon or no. Just must be the time of year. Beautiful days. Anyway, I'm here to talk about perceptions of fairness or unfairness. And it served me, pondering this topic, served me well, yet again, because I took it and applied it to my life. And it was kind of an interesting conclusion that I don't remember reaching before. For me, my personal outlook on how life treated me was very fairly. And I laugh because, like all of us, I certainly haven't been without my tragedies, without my suffering. But being an optimist, I've always chosen to look at that as being treated fairly. While I would look around in the world of suffering and lack, at least the illusions that common held illusions of the world around me, and see it, how I treated others as basically, mostly unfair. The more I learned about karma, at least in a cursory level, was that granted my limited understanding of karma seemed to offer a new paradigm, a new way to evaluate. Maybe a life was not unfair. Maybe the karma of those I deemed not being treated, I had previously deemed not being treated fairly, was consequential to their karmic status. In other words, we deserve what happened to us, be it good or bad. The perception being the key here, being whether we saw it, I saw it as good and bad. But there was in this acceptance of the laws of karma, it did offer some solace, some comfort that, wow, my life seemed to be fair, that perhaps, maybe I could see the world through the karmic lens as being more fair to the world around me. Now, I never really considered these discrepancies because I was born to a lower middle class family, maybe middle class. Lost my father at the age of 4. My mother was a single breadwinner of the family. So our condition as a family did go down. Whereas we started with 2 breadwinners, my father making more money, unfairly to my mind, making more money simply because he was a man than a woman. But we were left to survive on what my mom earned. But this didn't seem unfair to me personally. It just was. Although my whole life I did harbor the feelings that it was unfair to my mom to be stuck with 3 children, to lose the love of her life and have to make do the best that she could, scramble to provide for her chicks. My mother was indeed the epitome of a mother hen. And I'm not sure, thrust into her shoes, that I would have been able to do as well as she did. But again, no matter the hardships that came my way, my view of the world's treatment of me was fair. And the process of learning more about karma helped me to reconcile the difference between the fairness that I felt I was treated with compared to the mostly unfair treatment I saw of those in the world around me. And this was at arm's length mostly. I didn't feel that the people who were personally involved, were a part of my life, were necessarily treated unfairly. I think my largesse, I think I enveloped my immediate world in this sense of fairness. I can remember someone personally in my life who I really thought that life was treating them or had treated them unfairly. It was always the other. And sorry. And karma helped to me to bridge the gap here. And I started to understand that the possibility was there, that those I saw as treated unfairly were treated fairly due to the consequences of their behaviors, thoughts, feelings, and actions. As I came to study karma more deeply, it was readily apparent. It became quite obvious that my understanding of karma, the karmic laws, was only cursory. The workings of karma were part of all that I was deeming intrinsically unknowable. Unknowable at my level of understanding, at my level of existence. And indeed, what karma is, how karma works, what karma truly means beyond the simplification of action and reaction. For every action, there's a consequential and equal reaction. Yeah, it's a law. It's a law of the universe. But I relax quite comfortably, easily. Now, after rigorous, disciplined Raja Yoga focus and attention, only after this huge and taxing effort, along with everything else that I let it go, I put it down. I didn't have to carry it anymore. What a relief. Just by recognizing, just by saying aloud even, don't know. Or just saying that, don't know. That resonates with me as much, if not more, than any two words that I've ever strung together. So this realm of the intrinsically unknowable, karma slid in and fit well amongst all the other big metaphysical questions. And I learned, as with all seeming dualities, fair, unfair, that life is neither unfair or fair. It just is. Unfair and fair are judgmental processes for the most part. So part of our spiritual inquiry, part of our path, is putting judgment aside, along with jealousy, lying, stealing, cheating. Well, that doesn't sound good out there. Sorry, my editing skills are not very developed yet, or I would have edited that cough, the two coughs out. But maybe that's a job for another day. So these things that we've learned to discard, these things that reinforce separation, contribute to the sense of otherness that we may or may not feel. But definitely an impediment towards acceptance of the unity, the beauty, the inclusiveness, the joy, the love, the peace, the clarity, the silence that comes with discarding these egoic tools aimed at separation, aimed at establishing ourselves as some greater than being. So, neither nor. Is a better and more honest description of what's fair. Is life fair? Is life unfair. As most things on a superficial level seems to be in the eye of the beholder, not unlike pessimism or optimism. Fair or unfair? How do you find life? Which word would you use to describe your life, the life of those around you, and the lives of those farther, which I called earlier the others? Taking this kind of personality test might give you some food for thought. Recently, I've been very interested in the Myers-Briggs personality evaluation test and its 16 categories. And as our personalities exist, at least as long as we're in this particular physical vehicle, enlightened, awakened, abiding, awakening, non-abiding, awakening, personality remains. It's a constant. Buddha had a personality. Jesus had a personality. And as I'm mentioning these two saints, reminds me to say that Buddha never asked anyone to become a Buddhist. Jesus never asked anyone to become a Christian. Buddha asked simply, pointed the way to become a Buddha. He had done it, and he wanted you to do it as well. Jesus shared this. Jesus said, become a Christ. They didn't want followers because they both understood that following leads to judgment, separation, division. As we can readily see by looking at the world around us. The world that, after all, is elusive, illusionary, Maya. But sometimes it sure seems real. And this indeed is our chore, to journey towards the understanding of what's real and what's not. I've shared with you that in my process, using my mind to help me figure out what was not real. What a wonderful tool, but not very useful. not very effective to determine what is real. In fact, it can really get in the way. And this has been my process to utilize the mind, give it a job, let it sort, shuffle, store, and present me with its findings. Of what's not real. At first blush, what's not real seems to be almost everything. But when you look at it like everything, when you look at it the other side, the other way, what's not real doesn't even come up in the scheme of realness. What is real has absolutely nothing to do with what's not real. In fairness, just as what's not real has absolutely nothing to do with what's real. It's just part of the process. It's the koan, or the puzzle, that we are given to solve from the moment we come into these bodies, from the moment that spirit joins flesh. We are tasked with this poem, this koan, that can't be solved with rationality, as we so call it. It's a tool to understanding the limitations of the mind. As much as we'd like to think that our minds are unlimited, they're certainly with their limits. So, back to karma. Relegating a true understanding of karma into the realms of the intrinsically unknowable leaves one with perhaps the truth about what's fair and what's not fair, as far as life and its apparent treatment of you and those around you. Life is neither unfair nor fair. Life simply is. So the freedom not to quantify, not to qualify, not to count, measure, this is freedom. It frees up everything about you to devote your energies, your resources, your abilities to discover for yourself what is. We are. I am. You are. That's real. And just as life can't be categorized to fair or unfair, so too are we. We share this with life, and we start to see that we start to receive comfort from knowing that we simply are. We exist. Putting labels. We are neither good nor bad. This is the intrinsic fabric of life. I mentioned earlier Myers-Briggs profile, the 16 profiles. It's extremely interesting to me because a lot of psychology, although well-intended, falls by the wayside because you start to examine your sense, your experience of self in a different way. It's not an outside witness evaluating, calculating, categorizing. It's inside. We all carry our own witness with us. But as we do, personality somehow survives. And right now I see it, as far as I can see, my personality existing is to the end of this physical existence. But who's to say that my personality, our personality, disappears with our physical bodies? Again, in the realms of the intrinsically unknowable, where such things simply are.